and they cannot be this stupid to not see what they're doing.
Well, I don't have the final answer on that because I'm bewildered by that too. You see them making a lot of money, they love the system, but I think what happens is they believe they can control it, you know, and they have this President's Working Group on Financial Markets, the Plunge Protection Team, and they're always believing they can be bailed out. But eventually the markets are more powerful than all those who do this planning, whether it's central economic planning through banking and monetary affairs. Eventually the market rules, and this is what's happening today. The market is shouting that you've overstepped your bounds and you can't do it any longer, so it'll bring us to our knees.
Congressman, the Democrats are saying this is Bush's problem, and, you know, the failed economics. The right is screaming this is Congress's problem and the Democrats. I think it's both of their problems, but yet it's so much more than that, because this isn't seemingly getting very much attention connecting these two. Our politicians are saying one thing, but the rest of the news on TV is showing this is a global problem. This is happening all over the globe. Is that Congress's fault too? Is that the president's fault? Did we cause it in the rest of the world? Or have the central banks done the same thing to the rest of the world?
No, the seeds were planted in 1913. They really came to bloom in 1971. It was made worldwide because we have a total fiat currency created by the Bretton Woods breakdown in 71. But the world accepted the dollar as the reserve currency of the world. It literally said you can print your gold as much as you want, so everybody's in bed together. So this idea that if you think the dollar is going down in value, that you can protect yourself by going to the euro or the yen, it's not going to work. Only hard assets will protect you because prices are going up. And the world economy is global. Global economies are good when they're market-driven, but when they're driven artificially by central banks colluding. So it's not just our central bank. All the central banks talk to each other, but we in the Congress can't even audit them. We don't even know this. We can find out more information about the CIA, which is rather secretive, than we can about the Federal Reserve. And just like the other day when they came up with these bailouts, you think they even consulted Congress?
No.
Spend $85 billion, and Congress just doesn't do anything. We're nationalizing these industries, and there doesn't seem to be that much concern.
Yeah. Who is a guy who has seen this financial situation coming for a very, very long time. I know that you're being tracked now. Finally, the media wants to talk to you, wants to hear from you, because everything that you've been talking about is now coming to fruition. It seems to me, Congressman, that we are ending up with bigger and even more powerful banks. We're losing everything small and retaining only thing that is very big, global, and powerful. How do we ever escape the global clutches of these gigantic financial institutions and the Fed when we are now handing them all of the power?
It's going to be very difficult unless we have a real serious discussion here in Washington where the mistakes were made and undo those mistakes and devise another system. It's going to continue that way, and the big guys are going to end up owning everything. You say, oh no, it's the Federal Reserve, it's the taxpayer. But somebody's involved, somebody's going to be controlling that, somebody's going to be benefiting. You know, these CEOs aren't suffering, they're still getting their parachutes and their millions of dollars. So the big guys are protecting themselves. But eventually, always comes about. Monetary history shows that this type of a monetary system will not last, and eventually they have to sit down and devise a brand new system. The biggest question is, will it be in a free society or will it be in a totalitarian society? And right now, we're moving rapidly toward more government and bigger government and control by big banks and big corporations.
It is very frightening. Is this, you know, I said at the beginning of the show that I said, I don't know, about a year ago, one day, America, you're going to wake up on a Monday, and by Friday, your country will not be the same. This is not necessarily how I envisioned it, because I thought people would wake up by Friday. Is this that week, Congressman?
No, this is the preliminary. There'll be worse weeks to come, because the seeds have been planted. You say, what can you do to prevent the recession and the correction? You can't do anything. When you cause the problem of overinvestment, malinvestment, excessive debt, you can't solve the problem unless you do the liquidation, and that's the painful part that nobody wants to accept, and we haven't taken care of that problem. So unless we understand that and the people understand it, they won't know why we have to go through this problem.
Congressman, I've only got about 10 seconds. Yes or no, has anybody in Congress come to you that wasn't necessarily on your page and said, you know what, Congressman, don't tell anybody, but you were right?
More every day, but not those in leadership yet.
Мир развернулся в своем движении в другом направлении, к новому мировому порядку, к новой цивилизации.
Even that does not describe why the world has changed so much and why the world has turned so much toward a new world order and a new kind of civilization.
The President George Bush has talked time and time again about a new world order, and this is the best chance.
The World Federalist Association, or WFA, is one of the largest organizations that openly promote world government. Periodically, the WFA extends a Global Governance Award to a prominent individual pushing for the same goal. Former CBS anchorman Walter Cronkite was among the recipients of the WFA award.
Thank you very much. Today we must develop federal structures on a global level to deal with world problems. We need a system of enforceable world law, a democratic federal world government.
In a closed-circuit hookup, Hillary Clinton congratulated Cronkite.
For decades you told us the way it is. But tonight, we honor you for fighting for the way it could be.
And I believe it will also be said of this age, the first decade of the 21st century, that out of what will be seen as the greatest restructuring of the global economy, perhaps one even greater than at the time of the Industrial Revolution, a new world order was created. When my predecessors were speaking to this event a century ago, the world order of the 19th century they were describing was defined mainly by the balance of military power, and they saw European empires dividing the world between them. From the time of 1945, when my predecessors of the post-war years spoke to you, the world order was simply defined by the high-stakes standoff that characterized the Cold War years. These were orders that were ultimately reflected by political weight and military strength. But today, with Asia already outproducing Europe, India and China are clearly becoming part of our new order, and they're doing so principally because of their economic strength and potential.
Teaming up with emerging economies, Europe seeks Chinese and Indian help to overhaul the US-orientated global financial architecture. Is a new world order on the cards? And why is Europe looking east? And at what price?
Memo to incoming U.S. President Barack Obama. In the New World Order, China has economic clout.
The new president will be dealing with a slightly more assertive China, one that's grown economically, and in doing so there are going to be some conflicts.
Especially with the world economy in its worst slump in decades. From his first day in office, President Obama will have to navigate through some tricky economic waters between Washington and Beijing. The two economies are intertwined more than ever before.
If we are running huge deficits and big national debts, and we're borrowing money constantly from China, that gives us less leverage.
The leadership has already mentioned this publicly and saying, remember what we hold. We hold a lot of the treasuries, that we hold a lot of U.S. debt, and we're very important to you, so don't push us too far. So it's not an empty threat.
But China also knows that cutting off the money flow would damage the very market it relies on to keep its own economy afloat. More evidence that China will never be far from the top of President Obama's agenda.
A lot of people like to say, scaremonger about China, right? A lot of politicians, and I know you talk about that issue all the time. I think people should be careful what they wish for on China. You know, if China were to revalue its currency, or China is to start making, say, toys that don't have lead in them, or food that isn't poisonous, their costs of production are going to go up, and that means prices at Walmart here in the United States are going to go up too. So I would say China is our greatest friend right now.